Hey guys, this is just going to be a little video to cover some of the training progress that has been made in the past roughly 2 months or so. Now, basically all this is kind of in preparation for a Discord powerlifting meet through the home gym, or what else it's called, but basically every year they do what seems to be twice a year anyways, a mock powerlifting meet. And, well, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going for. So past 2 months has been solely focusing on that. That's when I did my gym overhaul and I got everything set up, which I do plan on actually going through and reviewing. And yeah, my lifts have shot up significantly. So a little background, I was heavily into powerlifting, never competed, but that was just kind of my focus on. And my goal was to start actually competing before I had stopped for about, I'd say I probably quit weightlifting about 3 years. Then coming back in around I think it was 3 months ago, started out and squat was around, I think I did 275 for about 6 reps, and everything just felt heavy, moved super slow, and just didn't feel good. And I knew a lot of that was due to tightness in my hips because, well, quite frankly, I'm a game developer. I sit all day on my butt. Then bench was an abysmal, I think I could do 185 for maybe 2 reps. And then deadlift, I think deadlift was still okay. That I remember doing my second session of them. I think it was 365 for about 5 reps. But yeah, it's definitely dropped back. Because remember before my previous PRs, before I stopped, my deadlift was 445. My squat was, I could do 370 for I think a set of 3. And then my bench was about 265. I don't know what my bench is currently because I do not have a bench yet. That's still on pre-order from Rep, and I think that's supposed to ship out around June 30th. So that's pretty much what I'm waiting on. But I have noticed doing the other lifts. So for example here, I guess it's just handling heavier weight. I've gotten accustomed to where I can press more. For example, my shoulder press, even though I haven't really trained it, has shot up. And I'm hoping that kind of carried over to my bench press as well. But this has kind of been my general scheme of things. So this was just a rushed squat workout pretty much. And my goal was I wanted to hit a max squat and hit a max deadlift. My goals were 405 squat. So here I am with, this would be 365. And a goal of 455 minimum for the deadlift. I hit one of those, not the other. But here's where I just kind of start feeling things out. This is where it starts to really kind of feel a little bit heavy on my back. Had a nice knee crack, but it still moved not that bad. Like it's still, I think just something's slightly off is usually when I come right out of the hole, and it's not every time. So I think I just need to focus more on technique. But you can see I kind of shift to one side a little bit. But here's that attempt at 405. And this is where I decided, okay, this feels good, feels smooth. It didn't really feel that heavy. So I decided to go up just to 425 after this. And I have a video at the end as well. You can see I'm currently using no knee sleeves or anything, just belt and wrist wraps because low bar just absolutely destroys my wrist and hurts my elbows. Yeah, you can see I pitch off right when I come out of the hole. But it still moved nice and quick. So this would be my overall new PR. Because I think 2 months ago when my old power rack and everything, I had a video of me doing 405. Granted, my depth was a little high. So I don't think it would have been, successful in a meet. But that 405, in my opinion, I think was. And then my attempt here, I also think was a little high. So I am having a hard time judging depth because I feel like I'm just barely over where your hips, I think they're just barely above the knee. So if you're unfamiliar with the squat and powerlifting, in order for it to be a successful lift, your hips have to go, or the crease of your hips have to go below your knee. But anyways, I hit my target goal of 405 and extended it a little bit to 425. So that was a new PR for that. And here's where I started feeling just everything, quite frankly, it just moved terribly. And I think it's probably because, one, I'm very new to sumo. Before this, I was probably doing sumo for maybe 2 weeks or so. And when I first started, it felt phenomenal. I actually PR'd on it. I think probably my second session where I went up to 455, going from a previous PR of 445. And that 455 moved quite well. I even gave an attempt at 475, but my grip failed. That was when I was doing over-under, and it just ripped calluses off of 4 fingers. So that took a little bit, and I wasn't able to deadlift for a little while. So I like sumo. When my hips don't hurt, it feels really good. But when my hips do hurt like they do after this or during this, it just everything feels so sluggish and slow. So I don't know what that is. But when I switch over to doing conventional, that feels like normal. Like it completely takes the stress off and puts it in a different place pretty much. So sumo has been more of an experiment. I do plan on continuing to pull sumo occasionally and not completely neglecting it, because I do feel like, one, it is a little bit easier to move around more weight than conventional. Yeah, there my grip actually gave with a hook grip. But something I noticed was I need to start putting a little bit of chalk on the back and kind of my fingertips, because with the stretchy pants, as I drag my fingers up it when pulling sumo, it wants to kind of pry my fingers open. But I know from when I was picking up 135 that there was no chance I was hitting 455 as the target. But here's an attempt at 365, so we're gradually going up. I think I farted on that one. It's either that or it's a really weird knee crack. But it still moved pretty quick. Nothing to really complain about. I do, after reviewing this, see some problems in how I am pulling. One, I think I need to probably widen my stance a little bit, because realistically, my back angle is barely shallower than when I'm doing conventional. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to switch to sumo. But can't remember how 4 or 5 moved, because this was about a week and a half ago. And looking at that one, something else I can probably start doing is not necessarily pulling my shoulders back, because that kind of makes you have to have a bigger range of motion, because you got to bend down farther because you're pulling your arms away from the ground, but pack my lats in. So if you imagine doing a lat pull down, that's kind of like a little cue that I've been focusing on, and apparently I haven't been doing it here, but that's been keeping the bar a lot closer to my body and keeping my back actually a lot tighter. So when I go through and I brace, like that one I was seeing, it was dragging up my shins quite nicely. So that one I at least did it for. But anyways, that only ended up going up to 430. There was no chance I could really do any more than that. And this is the next session where I focus a little more on deadlifts, and I wanted to do more beltless work, because I've never done anything beyond 370 without a belt. And that 370 beltless was 3 years ago. But this is also where I wanted to start tinkering with conventional. And for some reason I got the bright idea of, hey, I just pulled 405 with a little bit of a deficit sumo beltless. Why not just see where conventional's at? So I guess I decided to do them back to back. And apparently take my sweet old time getting ready. Good grief. I need to speed that up. Lower back started to give a little bit as I started the pull. And then I think this was my final session of that day. Because really all I did was I wanted to work and just do a little bit of a deficit and kind of build up see what kind of load I could put myself under and still handle. But this is probably just overall my favorite assistance exercise in regards to the deadlift. I love paused deadlifts. I don't pause the first one, so I generally just try to get it up and then go through rebrace, and then really wherever I find I can sit, I love just hanging there. So this is with that pretty lightweight. It's only 315, but when you pause it, it starts to feel a lot heavier. But the thing being, you can still move a tremendous amount of weight with a pause. Like, it doesn't just take you, cut the amount you can do and take a quarter out of it. You can still pick up quite a lot. But I did the same thing as I did before, just right back to back. I wanted to go ahead and do the same thing with conventional. I'm trying to train that back in because I noticed, again, this is the session after the previous one where I was wearing the stretchy pants. My hips just were fried. So, same thing. Go down and hold. Try to get pretty low to the floor. And so that's really been my kind of goal. Now, moving on to the most recent squat. This is my first actual working with knee sleeves. So I wasn't planning on doing anything heavy this day at all, but I do have the A7s on. This, again, first time ever with knee sleeves, and they felt, one, they hurt putting them on and keeping them on, but during the squat, they felt phenomenal. You can see how fast 405 is moving. But the only thing I noticed is I'm having a very hard time judging depth. So to me, this felt like I was going just as deep as I was without knee sleeves, but I'm probably a good inch or so higher. But I noticed this allowed me to have a very nice rep PR of 6 reps with 405. So if you plug that into just generic 1 rep max calculators, that puts it around 475 max. So this makes me confident I'm going to be able to hit 470 or 455 maybe in that meet. And then lastly, here's my fail. So that was my attempt at 475. Again, this was like a couple days after the squat, and I really wanted to just max out the deadlift and see what I could do conventional. And it was moving up, started moving quite well, still smooth, and then for some reason I just got just above the knee and it just came to a big stop. So I guess I found my sticking point. But anyways, that meet is in about a week from the recording of this video, so we'll see what numbers I can put up.